Hello, Mark Crossfield here, and today we're going to talk about wedges and we're going to talk about bounce and loft. So trying to choose the right wedge for your game. We're going to talk about what bounce does or can do or can't do for your golf. We're going to talk about when's the best time to use maybe a different kind of bounce, and just try and get you guys to understand a lot more about what kind of clubs you should be getting when it comes to your wedges, why you make the choices with your bounces. So rather than just going into the shop and asking for a 56-degree wedge, whatever bounce, get the bounce to suit the kind of swing you're making and get you really understanding how the bounce can help you and hinder you if it's wrong. So let's get stuck in. So bounce, what is bounce? Bounce is simple. It's basically the angle of the bottom of the club. So the front leading edge to the back side of it. What is that angle? That is the bounce angle. So this one has 10 degrees worth of bounce. And this bounce is here to try and help you. As long as you understand what the bounce can do for you or can't do for you, subject to the style of player you are. So are you digging down on your chip shots, hitting down, or are you a sweeper? Also to what kind of grass or conditions you're playing in, tight lies, fluffy lies, those kind of things. So bounce is there to try and help you, but to get it to help you, you've got to understand what it does, and you've got to understand how the different amounts can affect your swing path, so if you're steeper or shallower, and also the decisions you might make prior to playing a shot from different lies. So look, I've got a couple of props here to try and explain to you how bounce works. First one here is a snow shovel. So a snow shovel has bounce like a wedge, and then the next thing we got is a shovel, so with no bounce. So to give you an idea, if you can refer this back to your wedges, if I want to try and scoop a ball off this mat here with my snow shovel, what happens is I have to attack at a certain angle. Steep, I have to come down at a normal shovel angle. If I was to come at this ball with the bounce shovel at a flatter angle, I'm going to top it. The ball is under the bounce. The front edge of the shovel cannot get underneath it. Then vice versa, if I use the regular shovel with no bounce, if I attack at the steeper normal shovel angle, it feels like I'm going to just dig a hole, so it feels more dangerous for picking that ball up. Where if I come at it shallower, actually works now with the no bounce. So you can see how the two shovels, subject to the amount of bounce they have on them, regular shovel none to the snow shovel that has lots, the different angles of attack to perform the same task of just sweeping that ball off that mat. Now that applies equally to your wedges. I've got two wedges here, 56 degree with 13 degree bounce and a 56 degree with 10 degree bounce. So the 56 degrees being the loft, the angle on the face, the bounce, the 13 and the 10. So with the 13 degree, the higher bounce, like the snow shovel, if I come in too shallow, if I'm sweeping this off a bearish lie, I feel like the front edge isn't going to get underneath the ball and the ball's going to shoot along the floor. So this is going to encourage me to make a more of a digger style swing, so where I set the wrists and hit down on the back of the ball to try and get that front edge under the ball. So that's the 13, the higher degree bounce. That's more like the snow shovel. I'm going to have to come down at it. Where if I take the 10 degree bounce here on the exact same club, the 56, I feel from this mat, this bare lie, that I can actually make my normal sweeping style action, and it works. Again, back to the no bounce shovel, it's a shallower angle of attack, more of a sweep than a dig. So for bounce, you want to be thinking about the style of player you are. So a digger, someone who sets the wrists, gets the club picking up quite high, hitting down on the back of the ball, trying to hold off the hands on the way through. A very traditional way of hitting a chip. It's not as fashionable nowadays. People certainly the guys on tour are turning into sweepers a lot more rather than so many diggers because it's a bit safer. But it's a common way of teaching still chipping. Set the wrists and then hit down on the back of the ball. If you want to play that shot that way and take a little divot as you do it, that's fine. But you're going to need some wedges with a little bit of extra bounce on. So whatever the standard is for the loft, you might want to put a few more degrees of bounce on it, or get one with the more degrees of bounce on it. If you are a sweeper, so someone who tries to pick the ball a bit more off the top of the mat, or the fairway. You're not really trying to take much of a divot. You're not really setting the wrist much on the way back. You're keeping it quite neutral, then just turning through, finishing with the club more up in the air. Then you're going to have to go for more for your lower bounces. They're going to help that style of play. Now there's lies as well need to be talked about. So different lies will affect the way the bounce works. So I've got a strike board here, which is the tightest lie you can play off. The 10-degree bounce feels like I can still sweep into this ball, play my regular style still just, because 10 degrees is still a good amount of bounce, where the 13 degrees I don't feel like I could sweep that at all. I do feel like I'm going to have to hit down on that. So subject to my lie, it will make me hit more down on it or sweeping it more. But you've got to understand, simple way for you guys to understand this. If you've got a ball just on a mat or a basic fairway, if you want to just sweep that ball off the top of that fairway, if you've got lots of bounce, you're going to have to come in at a steeper angle and use the bounce. If you've got less bounce on your wedges, you want to be more of a sweeper, come in that shallower angle to try and sweep the ball off the top of the mat. Look guys, get your shovels out, have a look at them, have a look at the bounce, see if you can get your heads round that. Hope that helps. Any questions, post below. Excuse me, definitely love to hear what kind of bounces you guys are using on your wedges and why, the courses you're playing at, those kind of things. You've got to remember the best players in the world will be changing their bounce subject to if they're going to a Parkland or a links course, they'll be moving it around, or if they're not, they'll be certainly changing the way they play their shots. They'll be aware of the bounce on their wedges. Ask your question to yourself now, do you know what bounce is even on your wedges? If you don't know what bounce is on your wedges, how do you know what style of chip shot you're going to want to play, sweep or dig? So it's kind of potluck what you're doing out there. Hope this helps. Hope this gives you an idea of how bounce works. Think of the snow shovel as a club with lots of bounce, regular shovel club with lower bounce. If you're a sweeper or a digger, get that bounce around the style of play and chip shot you hit. Thanks for watching guys. See you in the next video.